Welcome to the Top 1% Men podcast by LGFG Fashion House, where we interview millionaires and billionaires and other men who fit within the top 1% as verifiable by quantifiable metrics such as wealth, physical fitness, and other notable life achievements. On the Top 1% of Men podcast, participation trophies don't count and man buns are not allowed. Okay, so here with Aron Klassen. Aron, share your beginning of LGFG. How did you start?
How did I start? Well, I exited a company that I owned prior, and I was looking for, my next career or next stage in my career. I'd been in sales for probably 16 years at that point, close to 20 if you include high school, I suppose. But there were a couple of things that a list I put together. What did I want out of a career? And LGFG checked all of those boxes. So,
what were some of the things on that list?
Yeah. International travel was one of them. Working with a luxury brand was another. Having a high level of autonomy and, essentially being able to work for myself within an organization. And those were a couple of the key ones at any rate. And obviously an opportunity to grow and advance and build as opposed to be stuck with the same salary for the next decade, Yeah.
Some of the things that you just talked about that were important to you, there's some things that one can expect to hear, like, growth and some autonomy. I get that. But you specifically mentioned international travel. You also specifically mentioned working for a luxury brand.
Mm-hmm.
You go on any of these indexes as you want, but why were those things important to you specifically?
Yeah, I love to travel. I love to explore different cultures, new experiences, adventure, if you want to call it that. And I figured if I could work in a career that's an aspect of, well, I'm checking off something pretty easily there. So, that's on the travel side. And as far as a luxury brand goes, I was aware that luxury brands aren't impacted the same during financial downturns and those kinds of things that your more, generic companies and brands are. So there's consistency there. Wealthy people don't become typically unwealthy when the rest of the world economy is difficult. So stability, I suppose. Yeah. Also, who doesn't like nice things? I'd far rather represent and work with a product that's exciting and valuable as opposed to something that's generic that everybody's, well aware of. Who wants to sell milk,
That's very cognizant to say that luxury brands don't suffer during downturns in the economy. A lot of people think differently from that, but the evidence suggests that you're correct. Because, people think like, oh, people stop buying luxury goods when the economy turns down. But one thing that I learned, and this is new to me in this business, like when the economy was really good, companies were buying and selling each other because there was money being thrown around. And so if you look at like the lawyers who are a good sort of, lawyers have an incentive to cover the whole spectrum of the economy because they want to service the economy at any given time. The barristers, the guys that do they're the guys that do the corporate work, right?
I think barrister is just a term for a lawyer.
No, the barristers and solicitors. Which
okay.
I always get them confused. One looks backwards. Barristers look backwards. So I guess the barrister would be the litigator. So the solicitors are the guys that are doing the corporate work. Anyways, one of the guys that do the corporate work, they're very happy when the economy is good because companies are buying and selling each other, etc. But then when the economy turns down, you have bankruptcy cases. Well, now the litigators, the guys that sue people, step in.
Right.
When the economy's down, there's more lawsuits that happen. Companies start to go through their records and find different aspects of things they can get money from. And so I'm like, wow, there's like an entire group of lawyers that are just waiting for the economy to turn down so they can get their money, right? And it's the same thing in like accounting and those professions, etc. So the corporate world, when you look at a firm in the corporate world, a lot of them hedge for both sides. And so it's like there's always rich people. It's not necessarily always the same people. Like the 1% always exists. There's just different people that cycle through the 1%.
Absolutely.
And for that reason, luxury products don't tend to suffer as much when economies turn down because there's always going to be wealthy people consuming luxury products. It's like downturns create millionaires too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In my previous business, we were situated in an oil town. It was purely the entire economy was predicated on oil. And when oil crashed, inevitably what would happen is the weaker companies, of course, they would go away. They weren't, structured in a way to continue through the hard times. But the strong companies bought up all of their inventory. They consolidated it. Those guys became wealthier then when oil came back. So, and then you did have guys who started up in those lean times as well. So they saw an opportunity. Okay, I can get the equipment that I need on the cheap and start up, low, so that when it comes back, I can capture that going forward. So I think watching that, absolutely. Not always the same people, but wealth doesn't go away ultimately.
So I like that as well about luxury, and you mentioned travel and stuff. But, everybody has such a different experience in, let's say, their first year, because like people that start with no experience dealing with clients, like you already knew how to talk to a person because you'd done it for 16 years. What was your first year like?
Yeah, I mean, what was my first year like? I think I took off pretty well out of the gate. I started all right. I picked up the phone fairly quickly.
Day one, by the way, and this is not a typical experience, but you've just been doing it for so long with talking to people. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in sales for ages. I also ran a political campaign before I came to the company. So, I mean, I'm not unfamiliar. I worked with different organizations, but yeah, so I took off on the phone right away. My first trip to Turf, I didn't sell. Right. I think you were in the office at the time.
Okay.
And we went through the script again.
When you say first trip, you meant like just your first meeting?
Yeah. First few meetings. So, because I was in Calgary and then I was going to Edmonton to see clients.
Yeah.
And pretty much right out of the gate, I went on my own.
Yeah.
And my problem then was, just the script.
Probably qualifying
the meetings. Yeah. So I went through the sales pitch again, got it down, and I think the next couple days, I think I sold 20 grand in new business.
Yeah.
The second week I was out in Turf. So it came easier to me than some, but I did have, 16 to plus years of direct experience with.
I mean, anybody that does this for 16 years can go and sell whatever they want.
Sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
That's the fact. So it's not like you didn't go through some pain and suffering in your learning quest. It's just you had done a lot of it already elsewhere before you came to LGFG. And so sometimes people are like, oh, that guy started faster or slower. It doesn't matter. Like everybody, you went through failures, and it just is what it is. You came here with those scars. So that's cool. Tell me about your suit. What are you wearing? This is cool.
Yeah, this suit has a little bit of a story behind it. So I'm very proudly Albertan, more so than I'm proudly Canadian. And so I wanted that to be reflected in something I wore, and a little bit inspired by, as we were doing suits for Lennox and Sorbo and all of these guys, just the stories that you were putting into the garments, they really reflected the personality of the person, more than just the fabric that they were wearing, but a real story embedded into the garment, which I loved the concept of. So I thought, well, what's a way that I can do that for myself? And working with some other clients who are Scottish descent, I learned that Canada has its own tartan, and all of the provinces have their own Scottish tartan. So I looked up the Alberta tartan. This is it. It's the official Alberta tartan. I don't know where you'd ever wear it as a kilt. Maybe some politician somewhere, but I loved it, so I selected that, and then I put in the Alberta flag and coat of arms as a custom liner inside, just to drive that Alberta point home. So the suit's kind of a point of pride for me. Style wise, I mean, it's bolder. And I do some unique things, fatter lapels and those kinds of things.
That's like a 6-inch lapel. What is that? It's a big lapel. That's bigger than 4.5.
Yeah, it's about a 5-inch lapel.
Yeah, because I know 4.5 is a standard preset. Yeah, and I'm looking at that. I'm going, I've never seen one quite that big.
Yeah, it's a 5-inch lapel. I think my next one I may actually go wider. I'm not wearing it now, but I have a horseshoe collar, horseshoe lapel vest. Okay, double-breasted vest that goes with it. Turn ups, double pleats. So most of my suits, I really shoot for a more vintage look, I guess.
How many of your clients would wear a suit like that?
Oh, one or two.
Right. It's not like, that's not what we sell. Like,
no.
I'm looking at your suit. I don't even, like you said, horseshoe, lapel. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't need to do explanation. I'll look it up later. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's because, I know that our clients, we might want to dress up and look all fancy and look great, but it's like our clients wouldn't just never wear that because, they're mostly a kind of, like they want stuff they can wear everywhere all the time. And, we can stand out a little bit as tailors. Like we can show the world that we're tailors, but for our clients, standing out isn't necessarily what they want.
Absolutely.
It's fine. It's part of it. So I'm going to ask you something. I haven't asked this before from people on this pod, but I think it'd be an interesting question to ask is, without having to name any names, like who are some of your favorite clients? What do they do? Why are they your favorite clients? And what are, maybe you have some stories?
Yeah, I mean, well, one comes to mind. You prefer I don't name names? Or
I mean, it's up to you.
That's fair enough. Well, he wouldn't mind, actually. Kim Moody is one of my favorite clients, for a number of reasons. He does wear more interesting clothes, so I will admit it's nice to be able to do the more creative pieces and put a little bit more creativity into it. It's a little bit of a boost for me, so I appreciate that. But beyond that, I mean, he's an excellent guy and a wealth of knowledge. I get the opportunity when I see him to pick his brain on politics, business, life, and gain some knowledge and wisdom from him. So there's that. I have a client out in Winnipeg who, after I'm done my day worth of meetings, he's always my last meeting on Wednesday night, and I go into the office. We play some tabletop board games, and he brings some other people in that he knows. We have a meal and look at some clothes, and so it's a nice evening thing where get to, I suppose, be a bit nerdy with that client. So that's he's a lot of fun. But mostly, I mean, I don't actually work with a lot of clients. I don't think any clients that I don't appreciate their time. I mean, generally speaking, the people I work with are very successful at what they do. I've got clients who are in criminal litigators. I've got clients who are obviously in tax. The client I was speaking about in Winnipeg, he's power industrial supply company. And so they're across all kinds of fields, but the one thing they do have in common is that they're all very successful at what they've done. They've worked hard to get there. They've got a wealth of knowledge. Generally we're like-minded on things like politics and economics and social issues. So it's just great to have the opportunity to learn from those people, and dare I say, call them friends. As I'm 5 years into the business now, so those are becoming longer term business relationships, and I might be delusional on this, but I think many of my clients are as happy to see me and have a conversation as they are to update their wardrobe. So I appreciate my clients a lot. Yeah,
that's one of the things that people took me time to understand this. Really, you and I, like, we're not in the clothing business. We're in the people business. The clothing, it's like they'd buy clothing anyways. It could be from us. It could be from somewhere else. Like every product these days has a lot of competitors selling it, and it should. I mean, that's the beauty of a free economy, is that we can compete and try to improve ourselves and our products and our offerings in order to attract clients. It makes everyone's life better off. And our clients choose us, but it's not because of our clothing, even though our clothing is amazing. And I can spend 10 hours telling a person or a crowd why our suits are the best suits in the world. Like, I'm passionate about it. I can do that. But most of my clients don't even know that what they're getting is so much better than what they think they're getting. Like even when Edward, our head of production yesterday, came into the meeting and started talking about the different canvases using different garments. Our clients don't know that.
Right.
They don't know that there's different garments, there are different canvas softnesses that are applied to different canvases to apply to different fabrics, from like linen to wool. They just get a suit that's amazing and they love it. But really, that's not the business we're in. Our clients don't buy from us because we are the only place to get clothing. They buy from us because the relationships we build, and they like us and they trust us. And Dare I say, our people are not boring. The people we work with, we hire, have life experience. They're interesting, and they're interested. And I do remember, and I know that you have a lot of clients you've told me about before that are some of your favorites. I remember, the guy you mentioned, Kim. He's funny story with him is that he had an office on 6th Avenue in Calgary, and I was working on 1st Avenue on Center Street, and that was my office. And I really, really wanted him as a client because I knew he was a very prominent tax accountant, had a firm and everything. And I called him about 6 times, and he just never took my call. He's like, yeah, I'm happy with where I buy my clothes, blah, blah, blah. But I called him again a few months later on a different referral. And every time I called him, it was with a different referral because people knew him. So he's like, use that. And I'm very, very adamant about referral gathering. And I knew this client could be a good client amongst others. And finally, I had David Wallach refer me, which was like the 7th or 8th time I'd been referred to Kim. And I called him, and I did the same approach. Like, hey, you know who I am, but this time I was with this guy he mentioned you. And I just, every time, same approach, but different name. And this time he's like, oh, he referred me. Oh, okay, fine, I'll meet with you. So I think it was like, I just got to a person that maybe he knew well enough or he respected well enough where he's like, okay, like I trust that guy's competency and how he makes decisions. So if he referred you, then I'll meet with you. And he ended up becoming a good client to this day. And good lesson about, the power of relationships and the power of referrals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's all of it. Again, over time, I did have to, certainly with some existing clients like Kim, I still had to earn their trust.
Yeah.
The trust was in the company, but it wasn't necessarily in me. And if I was less competent, I could have easily lost their business for the company, So, I'm pleased that it's worked out that way, and I've retained them. But, exactly as you say, the right referral gets you to the right people, and focusing on that. Also, I've found over time, as those relationships build, as you say, you're in the relationship business, and as those relationships build, those guys just start to want to help you. They want to see you succeed. So you ask for the referrals, to get to those people, but then sometimes those referrals are offered up because it's like, well, yeah, you should call this guy, because it doesn't always happen that way. But it never happens that way when you're starting out in the business.
100% never. Yeah.
That's years, later.
Yeah.
That those sort of natural ones come. They're not the majority by any stretch.
Yeah, like nobody
rare.
Nobody in your first year is calling you to do business with you.
No.
Right? It's like Matthew McConaughey has a line I love. He says, there are no help wanted signs in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah.
And until you're Matthew McConaughey, nobody's calling you with a role.
Yeah.
Interesting question. Who's your favorite LGFG brand ambassador and why?
Am I allowed to use his name?
You can use any name you want.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson. We're doing his suits.
We've got a poster.
You got the picture of him on there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's Jordan. It's Jordan Peterson. He's the greatest. He's the greatest thinker certainly of my generation, lifetime. And there are a lot of people that I greatly respect for various reasons. But broad strokes, Jordan Peterson has the greatest positive impact on men and women, I think.
Who'd be your second favorite?
Sorbo, Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, Sorbo. That's an interesting one, yeah.
Well, I studied acting and directing in college, and so I love film and television, and I watched Sorbo for a lot of years. Part of that also is like, he is so his convictions are so strong that he just doesn't play the game on social media. He doesn't worry about his reputation. He doesn't, he takes those risks. I appreciate that about him, and I like his content. I'm a Christian, and so I like what he's putting out there. And so yeah, I think Sorbo would be the next. So far, we've got so many guys coming down the road.
Yeah, like I'm thinking who's my next wave, and it's difficult because I know that for you it's probably Zach Wilde.
Oh, amazing! That's amazing.
And for me, it's probably Michael Frances, just because I just read one of his books, and he's kind of that mafia style. That's sort of the Nostra Costra, and I like that. So there's such a choice and such a variety. So like whether you are into the intellectual things like with Jordan Peterson, or into rock and roll like with Alice Cooper, or into bodybuilding and strength like Eddie Hall, or I guess we have several bodybuilders actually coming up, some really great ones. So there's sort of an array to choose from, and that's very cool. Kind of like represent our brand, and I like that a lot. Aron, I think that's good, man. I really appreciate you taking a moment and talking about some of your LGFG experiences. I'll ask you one more question. What are some of the what may be in your mind if you had to think of all the trips you've taken with LGFG, whether it was a PC trip or an international conference? Do you have one that sticks out in your mind that's a favorite, or one or two that do?
Yeah, I mean, so we were on the President's Club trip, the first one in what is that now? That's
2020. And so only you and yours made it because everyone else got locked out because pandemic hit that week, right?
That's right.
And you went straight to Mexico.
It hit that week.
Yeah. Everyone
was questioning whether they should go or not. My wife and I said, no, we're going. Yours and Sam said, we're going. And so, it ended up just being us. But I mean, it was nice in that sense. Obviously, a week at a 5-star resort in Puerto Vallarta, which was, I think they had the highest infinity pool in North America out overlooking the ocean. We had palomas. I took my wife to a butterfly sanctuary. She loved that. I mean, it was amazing. And we developed bonds closer with yours. It would have been nice if everyone else was there, of course. But I mean, of course, that's a highlight. It was fantastic. I'd say the recent one that we did in Prague.
For me, Prague
as well
really sticks out.
Yeah.
It was just like so beautiful, hey?
I've never been to a more beautiful city.
Yeah.
I've never seen a more beautiful city.
Or maybe Tallinn, I mean, now that we're here.
Tallinn's all right, yeah.
No, got lots of gray square boxes.
Tallinn has a lot of charm, actually, walking through the city.
I like charm is like what you call a person when they're ugly, but they're like, well, they've got charm. Tallind's got charm.
I like it. It's not too big. Calgary.
That's how you compliment the city. Well, it's not too big.
Yeah, exactly. I live in Calgary.
I like Tallinn.
I live in Calgary. Tallinn's a third the size.
Actually, Tallinn reminds me a lot of Calgary in many ways.
Does it?
Yeah, there's the snowy aspect, the sort of like get down to business aspect. A lot of the city, like outside of the old town, the city is very much straight lines.
Yeah.
With lots of land.
Yeah.
So you kind of get that prairies feel.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's a different feel, obviously. It's much older. I love the old town. Last night we were walking through, what is it, like old Soviet factories that have been sort of like redone and turned into these really hip places.
Into new Soviet factories.
Into new Soviet factories. Soon to be revamped. But no, I like Tallinn. But Prague, I mean, as a city, parts of that city, like large parts of that city, not like a little area of what's left, feel like it's still a medieval city. Yeah. Like they haven't updated the facades on the buildings. Like they've kept them authentic and original. And I'm a history, like I read a lot of history. I'm very, interested in history. So that was a phenomenal experience. Also, I've been studying a lot on the Reformation, and so Jan Hus comes from Prague, and so there was the statue there. So having some connections to something that I'm particularly historically interested in was great. But beyond all of that, the locations are great, and that's one of the things that I said I wanted out of a career. But the best part about the company meetings, and to me, what's most valuable about them, is over the last 5 years, I've developed meaningful relationships in the company. Without the company meetings, I wouldn't see them.
Yeah.
A, those relationships probably never would have developed.
Right.
But B, I wouldn't have the opportunity to continue seeing those people as consistently as I do. I mean, it's twice a year, but every time we get together, it's a celebration. It's a reconnection. It's seeing people you value and appreciate, and having the opportunity to continue to grow those relationships. And that's the most valuable part of the meetings. I think without that, certainly being where I'm at, I'd feel much less connected to the company.
Well, we are globally spread, and that's a good and a bad. Is this like we're just spread around the world, right?
Yeah.
Like we have people flying in from as far west as like Western Canada, all the way to Hong Kong, all flying into the same meeting, right? And we're covering all the bases.
And it's amazing. It's amazing that the company provides that to us. I mean, in no company are the employees going to actively, create that situation themselves.
Yeah.
And I think it's vital to the health of the company, but I think it's, the company provides it in a stellar fashion. It's taken me to Bulgaria, to Prague, to Estonia twice. It's taken me to Leeds a couple times. We had a little bit of COVID in there, which prevented me from, I wouldn't take the jab, so I couldn't attend some, but and there will be more to come. Others have gone, to plenty of places. So the exploration is great, but more than anything, it's
the people around
the
us,
people.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking too, like the Prague trip really stands out for me because I just love going to Prague. Another trip that stood out for me was and you didn't go on this BC trip, and I hope you get a chance to go into some of the next ones. We went to Georgia. Caucasus? Is that?
I've told you before, the Caucasus.
Caucasus. I never know how to say it.
I'm so disappointed that I didn't make that one because the Caucasus is my dream
trip, dude, we didn't
location.
talk enough. We never promoted that enough. Like every time, so we had a private Mercedes bus that would drive us around, and every single day was booked with a tour. It was a wine tour in the caves. We went up to Batumi. Which is we had all the funny water that they drink there. It's really cool. Every dinner we had like a private dinner served to us, and some of them had private singers that would come and sing for us during dinner, like traditional Georgian music while we ate, which was like insane.
Yeah.
And the Croatia trip for me is just right up there. Like Croatia was a little bit more elegant because Croatia is more tourist focused. And that was crazy. We went like on an oyster farm and we ate oysters fresh out of the water. Cool. And they didn't tell us right after that. They took us for a lobster feast, which was insane. And I just remember that. So we've had some crazy President's Club trips, and I hope you come. And I didn't get to experience Mexico, and maybe we'll do another Mexico one day because you guys said such good things about that hotel resort.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
But yeah, I also appreciate, of course, one of the things I love about the meetings, you talk about connecting with people. I like to see the growth in people year over year. So it's like there's some people that you met in the company, like Andrew, like the first time you met him. And then now it's a different guy. And, I can't wait until the next couple of meetings and the person that you saw start with the company now becomes a division president. And you're like, wow, like I watched that person's journey from start to all the way they are. And you see them grow and advance. And it'll be fun to see some of the old dogs kind of grow into those positions over the years. So that's exciting for me. So thank you for being here. Henry, thank you for recording. We're going to go back now to the office where we're going to meet the team and go to my house. For some snacks and refreshments. So peace out.